Okay, so I apologize in advance for the sound of my super froggy voice. Um, I've been seeing a lot of talk in a lot of different witch groups lately about Christian witches. I've seen a few Christian witches come forward talking about their path, and a lot of people kind of shitting all over them and telling them that that's an oxymoron and that they're a bunch of hypocrites. And then I've seen the same thing happen when people mention Christian witches in like a comment. A bunch of people will dogpile in the comment and be like, that's not really a thing. That defeats the whole purpose. So I kind of just wanted to address that for a second. I, by no means, speak for Christian witches. I am not a Christian witch. Um, but I do have quite a few friends who are, and I do run quite a few witch groups, and um, a lot of the members identify as Christian witches. So obviously, if any of y'all are around and you want to comment and like share your voice and your experience, please do. But until then, I just wanted to see if maybe I could help some of the other people in our community understand a little bit better. Um, from my experience, most of the witches that I know grew up with some sort of religious upbringing and background in the church, whether it was Christian, Catholic, Protestant, Baptist, like however they identified, they were probably raised in a household that spoke about God and going to church and the Bible and that kind of stuff. A lot of us had a really negative experience in those situations, and it caused us to look away from Christianity and look at what other options were. And a lot of us have gone back to what we refer to as the old religion, what our ancestors practiced before Christianity came along and before a lot of us were forced to convert. Um, but then you do have some people who were brought up in a very religious upbringing and taught about Christ and God and the Bible, and a lot of that resonates with them. But the way society's current majority, the way they act and even represent Christianity, really isn't accurate. And so they still feel like they need to kind of look in another direction and in another alternative. And they also find that they have like maybe spiritual gifts, like being able to communicate with the dead, or some psychic abilities, or manifestation abilities, energy work, the type of things that a lot of today's society Christians deem as bad or wrong or the devil. But it comes naturally to these witches. And so it doesn't coincide with what they were taught about Christianity, but they don't want to completely turn their back on Christianity. Because the true teachings of Christ, right, are not what Christianity represents to us today. Like, again, I am not a Christian. I do not follow that faith. I do not follow that path. But I do believe that Jesus Christ was a real person, and I do believe that he had a spiritual following. Okay. And I think a lot of the key things that he taught, not that man has rewritten in the form of the Bible, but a lot of things that he taught were good. They were kind of universal, how to be a good fucking person guidelines to live your life by, right? And there are some witches out there that really resonates with. And so they call themselves Christian witches because they still believe in Jesus Christ and they still follow the true teachings of Christ. They just don't necessarily believe everything that's been written and rewritten and rewritten and rewritten and presented as the Word of God. And you still might not fully understand how that works. I don't always either, but it isn't our path. So we don't have to fucking understand it. But it doesn't mean that, like, Christian witches aren't valid and that they can't do both. Like, it's not up to us to decide what other people, like, what works for them. You know? So, yeah, that's my understanding of, like, where Christian witches come from and how they are able to, and, like, how they are able to coexist between the two faiths and belief systems. And, like, I mean, Christian witches aren't the only ones out there that mix multiple religions. You know what I mean? Like, you can have a dual faith. You can have an omni faith. There's Jewish witches. There's Muslim witches. There's Christian witches. Not everybody that identifies as a witch is going to identify as a pagan or a heathen or a Wiccan or a Satanist even. Like, those aren't the only options when it comes to witchcraft. And I think that that's something a lot of people need to understand a little bit more, not just so that they can have a better understanding and a better accepting of other people in their community, but I think there are a lot of people out there that are a little bit confused and, like, don't understand where they fall on what path they follow. Like, some people really, 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 really benefit from and need a label to help them understand themselves. And a lot of them don't have that yet. And so I think we need to talk more about all of the different types of witchcraft and different types of witches and different paths that are out there, so that less people feel like their gifts and their energy work conflict with their religion and their spiritual beliefs. That's just my take on it.